everyone. This week, we'll start working on major paper 3, which will be a persuasive research article or essay. So I wanted to get started by talking about what an argument is and some questions you'll need to ask yourself before you really get started writing. The first thing you want to think about is what is argumentative writing? This is also called persuasive writing. They're both the same thing, but they're the same, but they're terms that are used in different classes. But basically what it is you're creating an argument. So it's not like an argument like you have with your sibling about whether or not to go see a Marvel movie or a romantic comedy. In this situation, argument is basically my attempt to persuade an audience. It takes a position on an issue that's important to me, and using sources and support, I'm trying to convince people that my position is correct or valid. Before we get into that, let's talk about the difference between a position and a fact. Sometimes it's hard to decipher which one is which, especially if you're like me and you tend to have really strong opinions on the things that you care about. I will argue until I'm blue in the face about the things that I'm passionate about. And to me, the things that I'm passionate about feel very much like facts. Like, of course, everyone thinks this way. But I know that's not the case. And if it was the case, there'd be no point in argumentative writing or arguing or debating, because everyone would just agree. And it'd be kind of boring, although it would make life a lot easier for a lot of marginalized communities. But basically, a position is something you can argue about. It's something that it has an opposing side. You may think that opposing side is completely wrong or ignorant, but it has to have an opposing side. And a fact is something that exists regardless of opinion. So a fact, we're taking ENC 96 online. It is what it is. This course is an online course, and it's an ENC 96 course. A position could be ENC 96 should be offered online each semester, or ENC 96 should not be offered online each semester, whichever way you want to go there with that topic. But the difference is that there are perspectives that can be brought out for the other side. Before you start writing your argumentative paper, so for this, you're going to take a social issue that impacts the local community, and you're going to ask yourself, what issues do I care about? Why do I care about them? Who does it impact, and how can I persuade an audience of my position? So I'll start by making a list of all the social issues I care about. I care about homophobia. I care about sexism. I care about racial injustice. I care about the environment, all sorts of things. And yours may be different, and that's okay. But that's a list I would care about. And I would think, well, why do I care about them? Do they impact me, or do they impact people I care about? And then I'll think, well, if someone thinks the complete opposite of me, what may they find useful in convincing them? And we'll talk about that next week when we start talking about how to find sources. When you're selecting your topic, here are some things to keep in mind. The issue needs to be local. It could be a global or a national social issue, but it has to have a local impact. So if I'm talking about homophobia and gay rights, or rights for LGBTQ+ community members, that's a national and global issue. But I would think about specifically, how does it impact the local community? What laws are there in place to protect people? What laws should there be in place to protect people? If I'm thinking about racial injustice in the policing, that's a national issue, but it's a local connection when you think of like Breonna Taylor. So you want to think, if it's something that is much bigger than the local community, does it have a local impact? Odds are it does. However, there could also be things that impact us on a local community that may not impact everyone else, and that's fine too. Think about looking around where you're from or where you're currently living and think, well, what issues are preventing it from being better? If I'm thinking about food deserts and food inequality, I may then start thinking about food deserts in the West End and how all the grocery stores that have been closed in that area of Louisville. And that could be something that would make it a local issue. It should also be something that you care about and that you have a strong position on. Because if you're passionate about a topic, then you're more likely to write a really good paper about it. This is where you want to be careful to not pick something just because you think I'll agree with you. I have had papers that I completely disagreed with the position, but was incredibly impressed by how it was written and how it was justified and defended. And that paper got an A, just like, and then I've also had papers that I completely agreed with, but the writing wasn't as strong, so it didn't get an A. So I'm going to be unbiased when I grade it. So please don't pick a topic because you think I'm going to agree or disagree with you. But if you're passionate about what you're writing about, that passion is going to be obvious to your reader. I promise. I can always tell when someone really cares about their topic because that passion just comes through automatically and it makes for really engaging writing. And you also need to be willing to consider the opposing side, which you'll then refute. But if you don't look at the opposing side, it means you've only done half the work. Again, you may think the opposing side is completely wrong, but you at least want to look and see, well, why do people feel that way? This week, what you'll start doing is some pre-writing before we start researching. And this is and these are some questions you'll be answering. What do I already know about the topic? And you'll make a list. What do I need to know? So where are there gaps in my knowledge, or what do I think I need more research on? What do I think people who are reading this paper may not know? So pretend that you are writing this paper for someone who has no idea what you're talking about. How do I need to describe and explain to them? What do I need to define? If I'm using a term like homophobia or transphobia, do I need to explain what that means? If I'm talking about a food desert, I probably need to tell my readers what that means? And then what kind of support would my audience find most helpful or useful? And we'll talk about that more next week when we start researching. But basically, the types of support your audience will find helpful or useful are the kinds that they're going to have a hard time arguing against. Hard facts, statistics. Those are things that you may need to keep a list of that you want to start looking up when we start talking about research. So if I'm talking about sexism in the workplace, my audience may not be aware of the issues that are still going on. My audience may not know how many people are impacted or how many complaints are filed each year. And that's something that they would find really helpful. I may know that because I've done a lot of studies on it, but my audience probably is not as informed as I am. In this context, you are the expert with your topic. You're presenting your topic to your audience like you are the expert. And in that situation, in that context, then you want to think, well, what are they going to respect from me and how can I make them feel included and well-informed? And that's all I have for today. I hope you find this helpful as you start pre-writing, and have a great week. I look forward to talking to you all next week. Stop sharing that. And as always, if you have any questions, please reach out and I will be glad to talk through anything with writing with you. Have a great weekend.